Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Paradise Recreation and Park District Board of Directors meeting of February the 12th. Will you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge. Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Here.
Here.
Stonebreaker is here.
Present. Thank you. Well, I want to welcome all of our guests tonight. It's nice to see people in the audience for a change, despite the fact it's winter. We're about to go to item 1.4 on tonight's agenda, which is a special presentation this evening, I believe, by Kelly Munson on behalf of the Elements program. But before you start, Kelly, we're going to switch out this microphone for Mary Velaface, so we'll all be on in sync, right? Looks like we're waiting for you now, Kelly.
Just hit the button on there, Kelly. There.
Hi, good evening. I think some of you are familiar with the Elements program we presented last year, which is a grant that is under the umbrella of the Parks and Recreation Department with the collaboration with Outdoor Education for All. And thanks a lot to Scott and Christy and Dan and some other members of the community that helped secure the grant 2 years ago, but it actually really started about a year ago. We are on our second cohort, and some of our members are here to tell you about what we're doing with the funds that you all have supported. So I'm going to let them share about the last few months to you.
Thank you. Who's first? All right, don't be shy, please.
Hello. I am really short. So we are the Elements. We're a youth advisory council. A lot of us participate in outdoor recreation activities, and we explore the more wild areas and the parks in these areas in Butte and Glenn counties. A lot of us are exploring our college and our career paths that we would like to go through. We tend to focus on the natural resources so that we can receive some trainings and certifications when we are able to. And we are working towards learning about our wellness and strategies to improve our personal well-beings. And as we build our group, we improve our friendships and our communications and our support for each other. And once we have our own people set up, we also expand out to our community and we talk with some community experts and some mentors to learn about what they're doing and issues and other such that is happening in our regions. So who are we? Most of our participants are within high school to college age from 16 to 26. A lot of them live here on the Ridge in Paradise or at Magalia. A lot of them attend either Paradise High School or Butte College. And all of us live within Butte County.
Hi, my name's Aslan. Here to tell you about some of the trips we went on. Some of the photos up here in the top right, we have the Phantom Falls. That's me in the picture standing under the fall. One of the first trips in the bottom left. But what I wanted to say was in Lassen was one of my favorite trips. We got to go snowshoeing, and it was the first experience for me. I've never experienced snow in that way. I come from a state that does not get any snow at all. So it was kind of like a fantasy. It was a lot of fun. I think that a lot of the trips that we go on are they're different. So it's not just like one category like water or just like bird watching or something like that. So we have a good selection of places that we've been to, and the total experience hours so far is 284 hours. So quite a bit.
Hello, I'm Jacob. I'm a Paradise High School student. I'm a senior and I'm one of the co-presidents of hiking club for our school. That's kind of where I found the program because my class advisor helped like connect me with Kelly Mudson. So our successes in the group are definitely participants. I've met a lot of new people through the program, and then the range of trips, it's actually really cool because there are certain parts of the county I've never seen. So it's been nice seeing the county I've lived in for a decade. um, Friendship's definitely a big one of the program. I feel like I've never talked to any of these people ever, and then I joined the Elements. Um, Connecting with nature is a big one. That's one of the main groups of hiking club that I wanted people from our high school to be able to touch grass, literally the saying, because a lot of people are literally just on their phones. So I think that was like an amazing part of Elements because they don't just teach you how to like touch grass. They actually teach you parts of camping and hiking and stuff like that, like shoes and what equipment to bring and what not to wear. And it's just a very good like community thing, and like everybody in our community are getting more connected. A big challenge of it is transportation because we are all throughout Butte County and a lot of us don't drive or have vehicles. It's been really hard to have like a stable people for every trip because of course people have lives, so also getting rides to things has been a challenge. Like I'm from up in the mountain, so and I'm kind of stuck there. Recruitment, reaching out, that has also been difficult. Like the only reason it was been able to like come to my schools because of hiking club. So I think it would be awesome to like be able to announce elements to get more people to join, just to build a bigger community of people, because meeting people outside of school is quite great. I'm usually stuck in my house, so I love this program. Yeah, and we don't have essential thing of communication. Usually, like I've heard some of my friends like try and wonder how to join or like talk about Elements Club, but not know how to get in contact with anyone. So I feel like it would be good to have like a good area to be able to communicate and like ask questions.
Hey, I'm Aiden, and I'm also a Paradise High School student, and I recently joined the Elements Club. I found it through my English teacher who runs the hiking club. And some of our upcoming trips that we're doing soon, um, we're going to a wildlife refuge um, to see like birds in their natural habitat. I think there's over like 300,000 birds there. So gonna be a lot of fun. And we're learning how to make fire by friction with some community experts. And we're also going to a Bioneers conference and the Banff Mountain Film Festival. Um, the film festival shows films from all over, like the world, on travel and nature and documentaries and that such to help inspire young people. And then if you want to know more about the Pioneers Conference, Kelly knows a lot about that. She can tell you. And one of my favorite trips that we're doing soon here is we're going backpacking. And that's going to be a multi-day long trip. And that'll be a lot of fun. Going to teach us a lot of techniques on how to survive and, live out among nature with nature. And then every month, sometimes twice a month, we have our meetings. in which one of us will cook a meal for the group. Here, Aslan made chicken and dumplings. It was really good. And then we meet in our meeting room and we discuss ideas for our upcoming trips and plans and, just plan everything out to help develop our skills.
Hello. Uh, Um, Hi, my name's Oksana. I am a part of Elements and I'm also a volunteer at Behavioral Health Services. Um, these images here are some places we have traveled to, as you can see. And as Aslan mentioned, we have been just in this short amount of time a broad spectrum of places, and we've gotten to learn um, a lot about each of these different places and how to tend, some of these places we have specifically learned how to tend to the nature in that area. And yeah, just, I don't know, actually, I didn't get to go on a few of these, so I don't have much to say. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, these are more pictures of us enjoying our time together. It's been a really great opportunity to be able to do this. A lot of us, well, speaking for myself, I do not have the opportunity to be able to do these things with my family or anyone or by myself. So um, I think that elements being prioritized is just very important, not only for the youth, but our futures going forward and what we learn from this. Um, we will be able to share. Sorry, I don't actually know how to explain that, but more pictures. They were great. These were great times. Yeah, pretty educational. I don't. It's just pictures. Support we need. Okay, so funding to continue and expand this program on the ridge after the grant. Okay, yeah, we definitely need funding just to be able to, better plan out things, not to have to not rent equipment because that, I mean, you can understand that that just isn't ideal, but and just also for us kids who don't have certain things with the proper equipment to do some of the activities. Obviously, funding would help aid that issue. Gearing donations for expeditions, like, yeah, tents, sleeping bags, pads, backpacking, stoves, pots. We do need all that, like I said, so we do not have to rent them. Um, References that could be guest guides, presenters, mentors. Yeah, we definitely need more. A lot of us are trying to figure out our paths in life and what, resources there are here in the Butte County area. Um, I know that through the guides and mentors we have met, the past times I've been around, I have learned a lot of things, but mainly that you do not have to confine to the everyday, just go to college straight out of high school. They've definitely broadened my perspective as to what it is you can do, how to organize going to college, what jobs you can have like in between college, stuff like that. It's nice to hear from grown adults who have struggled or have gone through different things to figure out how they've made it where they are and why they enjoy their job and why it's important and stuff. That's always great. Job internship opportunities for participants in the program. Once again, that's really important because we're all kind of trying to figure out where we're going in life. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Couple things I would add is we do have an Instagram if you're a social media person. So we, after each trip, we post pictures there. Or most of the time we post pictures there, so you could follow along with that. And the grant funds that we have go till the end of May 2020. I'm sorry, March 2026. So we have another year from now. And so in that year, I'll be looking for local, regional, statewide, national grants. And from my experience in this last year being a part of the program, I think it's potentially a really great ongoing program for Paradise to offer to the Ridge. I mean, I can speak, I've really focused my recruitment on the
Kelly,
Ridge.
can you
Yes.
come up to the microphone?
Come closer, yes.
So we're recording.
You know, we do picking folks up, like, it's hard to get around up here if you are a young person without a car. And the job market is not thriving yet for young people. And so access to programs like this, I think is an opportunity for the Ridge to really stand out in what they offer to their young people, because we are a smaller community, which means we can be a little bit more flexible. You know, Chico High has 2,000 students, and it's just harder to do things down there in certain ways. So anyway, any resources, connections you have in the community, whether folks want to ever come on a trip with us and be one of our guest guides, and share a bit about your story and the things that you do, or one of our meetings, yeah, or ideas that you have for service for our group or issues in the community. I know that I was in local government for a long time, and sometimes we forget to ask the young people what they want. And so we have a group here. If you're ever like, we're working on this project, and we want to, you know, what the younger, you know, the younger generation's ideas are, thoughts or reflections, and come to one of our meetings and put your idea by us, and you'll get a lot of great feedback from these young folks that are living up here, going to school up here, trying to find jobs up here, trying to figure out, you know, what's next. So anyway, if you have any questions.
I think we have a few questions. Board members?
I was going to ask, when is your monthly meeting? If we want to come and listen in and
The third Wednesday, almost every month, but I would be happy to send you a list of the dates, because with like spring breaks in there, sometimes it adjusts. And we meet in the back room here. You can have dinner with us and be a part of our meeting. Our tomorrow night's meeting, we meet from 5:30 to 8. We start with dinner, so that will be cooked, and we eat dinner together, and then whatever guest we have. So this week's guest, next Wednesday's guest is Jordan Rodriguez from Butte College, and he runs the Career Center. So he's going to talk about different job opportunities in the region. And then we'll be planning our backpacking trip after that.
I'd be glad to listen in. At what time?
If you want to have dinner with us, 5:30.
Okay.
And if you just want to come to the meeting, 6.
Thank you very much.
Stay
Yeah.
there, Kelly. Stay, Kelly. Please stay at the mic because it might be more questions.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else from the board?
I have a couple questions. You said the age was from up to age 26, and then one of you was talking about the hardest thing is communication and get the word out. So do you have ideas of how to reach people up to age 26 and even
Yeah.
at the other high schools? I mean, are you coming up with ideas of ways to?
Well, the grant, to be honest, the grant was written to serve Butte and Glenn counties. And when I got involved in the program, I said, that's awesome and crazy, because just picking up students or participants in the program through McGaley and Paradise, it's it's a big stretch. And so
Mhm.
that takes time. And so, I mean, last year Max was living in, Bangor, and so it just to me it was like didn't really make sense of to build community. So we have just actually this year advertised on the Ridge. So I went to all the PRPD events in the summer and had a booth. That's actually where I met Aslan's grandmother, and Oksana was there. So we met some folks by having booths. We went to the high school, Ridgeview Boys and Girls Club. Um, and Moms on the Ridge. So we've been putting it out there, and yeah, just getting it out there. I think is something that we want to continue to do. So, besides just the community events and
Every,
get
er,
on your podcast.
well, everything
stuff.
I've heard about it, it's a great program, but I'm thinking if you know your funding's going to run out, maybe presentations to the service organizations, the Moose, the Elks, the Rotary,
That's a great idea.
and,
I
have a
haven't thought of
budget
that.
out there and why you know it's going to run out and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And because you could present this program with a little bit more information to those
Yeah.
kind of organizations.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you, Mary.
So, Kelly, let me ask you a question.
You might want to ask them questions
Well,
too, but I'm happy to stay up here.
show of hands, how many of your youth council members are here tonight?
This is all five of them. And then there's another, I think, six. So they're not all here tonight.
Right, but the council's 11
Yes.
participants, is that
11,
right?
12, yeah.
And half of you are here tonight, so I want to thank you all personally for presenting your Elements program. It sounds positive to me. It's relatively new, right, Kelly? I mean, you're only in your second year now?
Mhm. Yeah.
to
Scott
the grant?
originally was the director of the program when
Right.
it first got started and then passed it on to me.
Okay. And your monthly meetings usually are every month here
Mhm.
in the evening, which
Mhm.
Mr. Stonebecker's already secured that. Is that on our calendar, staff? Do we do that at all?
It's it's on our calendar. We know about it, but it's not like it's an open meeting to the public.
Right, right.
So it's not on kind of our promoted list of meetings. But
Okay. All right. And then I'm just curious, we have an electronic sign. Is that something that we could promote? The organiza-
absolutely. I think it would be great, Kelly, to hear from you and your crew. I heard some about word of mouth
Mhm.
and just kind of getting some of the information out. What ideas your group might have on getting that out? You guys obviously have great pictures,
Mhm.
which tells a story, right?
Right.
Especially when there's people in there and you guys in the pictures. So I think there's a good opportunity there to get that out. But it'd be really interesting to hear from you guys, not tonight necessarily, but just kind of your suggestions on how to up the recruitment. And I know part of it is for just to reiterate something is we had talked, and you can probably talk about this. There could be too much for the program to handle. And so I think there's kind of a right sizing it to make sure that it's a quality program and experience, and then a lot of things to juggle. But Kelly, maybe you can speak to that on like what's an optimal number that you might see for next year.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just thinking, Dan, I don't know why this did not cross my mind to put it in the PRPD brochure
Oh,
that
sure.
goes
Yeah,
out to all
absolutely.
families.
Right, yeah.
And another option too. I mean, we do have a little bit of a social media presence. We can push things out. So I'm suspecting somewhere in that group is someone that can edit video. Yeah. You got good material there to work with. I think just a promotional recruitment short video would be great for us to push out
Sure.
through different ways. And so that might be, yeah, use us for that recruitment. And then I think also we can disperse it to teachers and some of the youth sports programs and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, as someone who does a lot of work in the backcountry over my life, you don't want to take massive groups of people out on a trail or on a river and things like that. So, I would say, even though, yes, I'm like, I would love for 100 people to be in the program. the trips need to be limited to probably not more than 15. Certain trips you could take more than that. But if we had, say, 25 students in the program, maybe, and not every, some people have jobs or other lives or homework or things like that, then we could narrow down the trips. And as Dan was mentioned, the constraint is that I think only one person in the whole, on all the group has a car. So we, through them getting rides, through family members or friends, and then myself, and sometimes another person picking folks up, that's really with these kind of programs where access is an issue and gear. So like for snowshoeing, we provide all the gear for them because otherwise folks couldn't come. If we didn't pick them up and have gear, many people could not come on these trips. And so we're balancing access and wanting to expand the program. And so now it's just like a first stage, and it would be lovely to see it grow, and we'll find some creative ways to deal with those challenges as we go.
Kelly and I haven't had a chance to talk about this much, but just before the meeting, I was talking about a meeting with a person that runs a nonprofit that's trying to get kids out in the wilderness, basically, through kayaking and water sports. And one of the things I thought was interesting from a philosophical standpoint is their focus is trying to have small groups that have long-term meaningful experiences. And, we talked about this program here. I'm seeing some heads nod here. You could get a bunch of people out for a short-term experience in the afternoon, and that's fun, but it's not it doesn't become part of them. And so I'm hearing from this group and looking at it, I suspect that these experiences are becoming part of them, and they're going to translate to, you know, their entire lives going to multiply that out. And so I think there's something, oh, I see somebody can't contain themselves anymore.
I would have to agree with that. Like, especially with being one of the co-presidents of hiking club, we started hiking club on a whim. Like, it was one of our counselors was running it, and we had no funding. So when we joined Elements and our teacher picked up, like, we had no idea where to start. And being able to find out and like learn how to build a community through Elements has helped tremendously with hiking club. Because if we need help with like how do we figure out transportation, like what would be scenarios we would need to make sure we're prepared for, it's been great to like have experiences from Elements to take with us. Like my other person who helps run hiking club, Donna, like she's in the program too. She's been here a few times, and it's just a big help, like especially like something to take with us everywhere we go. Any other questions?
I want to say one other thing. So yeah, the trips are building on each other. The fall we did mostly day trips and just building community and getting folks used to being out doing different things. And then in April is when we're doing our first 3-day, 2-night backpacking trip. And then that is
Where is that going to be?
well, kind of depends on the weather and the snow level because if this is middle of April,
Right.
depending on yeah, so we'll probably make our decision um, by the middle of March based on where we think we can go. So either the coastal range or I doubt Lassen will be available. Probably, I bet Tahoe won't be available. So, anyway, April's a tricky time to go, but we'll most likely maybe go coastal range. And then that'll be our trial run. And then in June, we're going to do a week-long backpacking trip that we're building up to. So, a lot of things that we're trying to gain skills. And then the other thing that is less developed that we're starting to dig into is the trainings and certifications. A fun story was we were actually at Phantom Falls and we were having lunch and another group came up and I was like, they look like they're an organized group. And so I said to them, I said, oh, where are you all from? And they said, oh, we're from all over the place and they said we're here for the botany symposium and Max was standing right next to me who wants to do botany and biology in their life And so I was like, where's the botany symposium? Because they were all college age looking students. They said at Chico State. And I said, when does it start? And they said tomorrow. Because we were there on a Sunday and the botany symposium was on Monday and Tuesday. And I said, they said, yeah, it's, aimed at college students and, all sorts of professionals in the botany world. And so I said to Max, I said, would you want to go? And he said, yes, I'd be interested. So when we got back, looked it up online, found out that a student rate was $70. You could still apply. And so Elements has funds while we have the grant for trainings and certifications. So we were able to pay through Elements for Max to go the very next day for a 2-day symposium at Chico State on botany, all sorts of botany subjects and people from all around the state, which was pretty cool. And then the Bioneers Conference, which is in San Rafael, which is out of our area, but they have, I don't know, has anybody heard of the Bioneers Conference?
I've
Yeah.
attended that actually.
It's like if you get depressed about what's happening in the world, go to the Bioneers page. It's like people from all around the world that are creating solutions for environmental justice and social justice. And they have a youth program. And so youth from all around the country come in the high school and college age students. And they're young people that are concerned about their future, concerned about the planet, want to come up with solutions. And so some of us are going to go to that. And I feel like if we need anything in this world right now, young people need some hope because it's can appear pretty bleak out there sometimes. And so trying to find positive views for the future and positive things to get involved with.
Speaking of Chico State,
Yeah.
have you been in touch with the Associated Students Outdoor Adventure Program?
We're going to be renting our gear for the
That's-
backpack
They have a
trip.
tremendous amount of gear that's
Yeah.
probably lower than market rate.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll be renting from them. Yeah.
Kelly, I was just going to offer one more thing. It's been on our list to kind of get back and kind of calibrate on some things. It sounds like it's probably time for us to set that up. And I think we have some ideas about some approaches to continue funding or some ideas, but it'd be good for us to connect and see what
Great.
this next year might look like.
Be happy to do that. Thanks so much for your time.
And thank you everyone for,
Yes.
it's
thank
not easy to speak in public and you guys did a great job.
Yes,
Thank
you did. Thank you so much. Now, you're all more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you so desire, but if you'd rather not, you're welcome. Okay, very good. All right, public comments next. On the agenda, item 2, public comment. Is there anyone in the audience this evening who wishes to offer a public comment to our board tonight on a non-agenda item? That's your opportunity. Anything you want to talk about other than the agenda, you have an opportunity to speak. Anyone?
Is it just what we think about, I guess, fairness? Or
Yes, anything other than an agenda item, so.
I could say, I think one of the things that Paradise really needs is, I guess, one of them is walkable streets, like getting from place to place. It's pretty difficult to do without a car, and even with a bike, I've heard it's not super easy. I tend to like to do things at night, so there's no street lights available. It feels a little dangerous walking around. That's just one of the things that I think would be very helpful. And then more things for like youth to do, like parks or just places to go, stores. I know that's kind of a hard one to get going, but just more stuff for the youth because I feel like living here at anything below a full-grown adult with a house, it's pretty boring. Anything you do is in Chico. So more for the youth, more places to walk around. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on a non-agenda item?
Just to add to what Aslan was just speaking on, being in Magalia, I think there's a slight difference between Paradise and Magalia in the sense that there's even less to do in Magalia. So, I don't know how long things will take with getting the parks up and running out there, but I think that would be like a really good thing because I don't see kids out around there, and the kids I do see out are risking their safety by driving around like maniacs on quads and stuff. So it'd be nice if we had some parks and things like that, and also just in general for this Paradise and Magalia, um, cheaper, maybe more accessible, organized activities, separate from like elements and stuff like that. Maybe just anything that is a little bit more affordable because some of us, like the job market and stuff that was mentioned, due to that, we don't have money to be going to Chico and Sacramento and doing all the cool stuff. So yeah, it'd be great to have more things to do up here.
The fellow in blue in the audience would love to talk to you about youth activities in Magalia.
Thank you. Thank you both. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak as a comment this evening on non-agenda item? Judging by the silence, I think we've exercised that opportunity. Okay, we're going to move on to item 3 on tonight's agenda, which is what we call our consent agenda, of which there are 4 items on consent. Thank you, everyone. Staff or board members, do any of you want to have something pulled off the
Mr. Chair,
consent? Yeah.
item 3.3, pulled from the agenda.
3.3, you said?
Correct.
And 3.1? Okay. That only leaves 3.2 and 3.4. Are any of those need to be pulled off the consent from board or staff?
Motion to approve items 3.2 and 3.4 on the consent.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been made and seconded. Do we need a voice vote or a roll call vote? Pardon? Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. So item 3.1, our clerk has asked that be pulled and discussed separately. You want to share that with us, please? If we approve that as amended, do you have an amended copy for signature this evening? Okay. Any other amendments need to be entertained on the minutes? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept as amended.
I move to accept item 3.1.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded to approve the amended minutes as presented this evening. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, moving on to item 3.3. Who requested? Dan, did you request that?
Yes, thank you. There were a couple of questions regarding it, so I thought I would kind of clarify a couple of items. This is a longstanding decision from the board, and there was a request to, one of the due diligence items was to develop a license. Instead of a life lease, it's a license for use with Joe McNally and Benoit. There was a question regarding the exhibit, and one thing I wanted to keep board members in mind was that we're not asking for approval of the item that's attached. It's still being reviewed, and there's a couple of changes that will occur on it. But the exhibit is being reviewed by the landowners to see what areas they want to identify. I think that from a material standpoint, the decision, it doesn't make that much difference to us on what the area is. It will just help define it. That area won't it'll just simply be marked on exhibit as what the area is, part of the license area. And we're still working with the legal counsel and landowner to work out some of the amendments on it. Not amendments, but changes to it. What we're looking for tonight is just simply authorization to pursue that, complete the action. But I wanted to give enough of what the document was, so folks had some questions, can look at what the license agreement might state right now.
Well, then let me ask you this. The agreement document makes reference to two exhibits, not one. An
Correct.
Exhibit A and a B.
Yeah.
So that is what you intend to have the
Yeah,
parties.
they're related. Exhibit
Right.
1 or A is a map. Exhibit B is a text description of the
Correct.
map.
Right, okay.
Not a legal description, but just sort of to help defining
Right.
that in narrative form.
And on behalf of the board, I do understand all you're doing is seeking direction that we authorize you to proceed to finalize this thing and eventually execute it. Assuming legal counsel's involved too, right?
She's been involved from the start here.
Right. But
I
nobody,
will mention a couple of things on some changes from the document that you have before you. So there was some additions on the title. For example, we're adding the address and address in the recitals. There's some dates that were added to it. And then I think some of the comments we're working with the landowner has to do with some of the definitions and just ensuring that they're able to continue practicing essentially agricultural land uses on the property. So just kind of, there's just some areas that we're working on with the landowner. Be happy to answer any questions folks might have.
well, I'm glad you pointed out that there's some more changes pending that aren't in our individual copies as part of our packet this evening, particularly dates and so forth. But let me just share one thing with you as my observation. I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm just curious. On page 12 of the agreement document, or page 4 of 9, actually, there's an item called number 12 called assignment. And if you read that language in that first sentence, it's talking about the licensor. Well, that's us, that's the district, right? So I think that the intent here is not us, but it's actually the licensee is what we're talking about, shall not assign or sublease his or her rights and delegate. In other words, we're talking about Mr. McNally and Ms. Benoit, not the licensor. Am I wrong on that?
No, I think that's right. I'll make a note of it. Thank you.
Okay.
There may be another section that defines some of that agreement stuff, but I'll make that note. Thank you.
I have a couple of, the way I read this, to put it in simple layman, non-legal terms, this is the right of use of that property until they die. And then after they die, the original agreement kicks in and it comes to PRPD, correct?
Not quite.
Okay.
So the steps are this. The license is based on PRPD ownership of the property. So we're granting a license of property that would already have been transferred. So that would have to be complete. Step 1 is transfer the property to the district. Step 2 would kick in this agreement, which would then be, and a lot of folks will use the term life lease. So it's a life lease essentially with the landowner. So
They're leasing it back
we're
from
leasing it back,
PRP.
we're leasing it back to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They have right of use until they pass.
Correct.
Well,
Or,
okay.
or to
Okay.
otherwise terminate if they
Okay.
choose to go a different direction.
Okay, that makes sense. And then on page 4 of 9, and I've read this out loud and I had my husband read it to me, and I do not understand what paragraph 13 says, what that sentence is.
We're talking about failure to consummate sale and
If
donation.
for any reason the transfer of the property under the real estate sale and donation agreement dated this license agreement shall be null and void.
Yeah, let me
Help me
translate.
explain that to me. Sorry.
I won't use my pretend lawyer voice like I do with staff. But essentially what it means, if you know the order of the deals, so the first deal is transfer the property to PRPD. And then the second part is a license agreement from PRPD to the licensees. What this states is if there is not a transfer of that real estate and donation, we don't own the property. That makes this document null and void because we don't have a right to license property that we don't own.
There seems to be a verb.
It doesn't say that if for any reason the transfer does not happen, this agreement is null and void. It just says the transfer under the real estate donation agreement dated this license agreement shall be null and void.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
is
yeah.
something
yeah,
missing?
in my revision, it has it.
Oh, good.
So that, yes.
Okay, so if for any reason this transferred property under the real estate sale and donation agreement dated
Does
January
not
does
occur.
not occur, this license agreement shall be null and void.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So we trust that our attorney will have a closer look at this before it's actually signed?
Yeah, and it's not unusual for us to have authorization on something that's it's essentially I think that the gist of the deal is understood, and now it's just sort of cleaning it up with the two parties. I think oftentimes when there's a concern about a larger issue, then that's where items come back for the board, or we look at for example, an approval of the document. Right now, I think it's probably 80-90% there with some consultation with them, and then also just some definitions. So, for example, there's a couple of phrases in there that we're going to actually define rather than use the legal term. So I think there's some things like that. Our attorney's looked at this. She's been working diligently on it, and it's been revised a few times. But I think we're very close to having agreement with landowner, and attorney seems satisfied with where it's at right now with the direction we're going.
Is it too much to ask if and when you finalize this with all parties concerned and it's corrected and so forth, that if any board members interested, that we can have a courtesy copy?
Oh, absolutely.
electronically?
We can provide an executed copy if folks would like. So that's not a problem at all. And then I would say the other thing too, if there's any additional, you take a look at this later and there's some additional words that are missed or clarification, by all means share that with us. This is considered a draft at this point, and
Okay.
certainly it's changed from what you have in front of you. And that's the reason we're seeking authorization and not approval. So
Very good. Okay.
There was also a couple minor typo errors which I just sent you and the clerk email
okay.
pointing them out.
Okay,
Nothing
great.
major.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this agenda item that we've pulled off for consent? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board. It's a pleasure of the board. We need to entertain an action.
I move to approve item number 3.3 on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Can we clarify that we're authorizing the completion of this agreement rather than approving the agreement? Okay.
That is correct. We're authorizing to finalize the agreement before final approval. And that's my amended motion. You want to amend the second?
I'll second the amended motion.
Can you restate that, please? Or can the chair restate the motion?
I didn't make the motion, but I'll try. I think the motion that was made and seconded and then further amended and amended by the second party too, is to authorize the district manager to proceed towards finalizing the agreement subject to further document amendments and so forth and legal review.
That is it. Yeah. I concur.
Do we have clarification, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, everyone, now we're moving on the agenda, committee reports. There are no committee reports scheduled tonight, so I'll move on to item 5, old business. There is no old business tonight on the agenda, so we'll move on to item new business, 6.1, mid-year budget review report for fiscal year 24-25. The staff's going to provide an update on that fiscal year budget. The information only, I understand, will be done verbally. Is that correct?
We do have some information in the packet related to it. Catherine, come up. I know that there were a couple of questions. We handled a lot of information at the last meeting to look at the budget review, and we'll have a finance committee meeting also to dive into
I
some of
don't
it.
mean to interrupt, but before Catherine starts, what I saw in my packet was 3 pages where it's talking about fiscal year, calendar year 2023.
So if Catherine can have a moment to explain the request,
Okay,
I think that would be
thank you.
helpful.
At the last meeting, Mary had asked to see the previous fiscal year where it was the half year so that she could get a comparison of what it was like then versus what it's like now. So what I have in here is July through December of 2023 and July through December of 2024 so that you can get a comparison of the two fiscal years, half years. Mhm. Yeah, I can do that. That's okay. I totally understand. Yes. So I just wanted to point out a few of the key things between the 2 years. One being tax revenue. In 2023, we had 0 tax revenue, but in 2024, we had the, I think it was 59,000 and then a little bit more. And also our grant income was different this fiscal year than it was last fiscal year. The last fiscal year shows that we had a grant income of 33,000, and this fiscal year we have 264,000. So we're starting to see that some of those grants that we had and are starting to pay off. So some of this 264,000 could be what we have spent in fiscal year 23, 24, and we're now getting it in 24, 25. So that's kind of, yeah, reimbursements are coming in. And so we're going to start seeing our grant income going up more. Maybe not as quickly as we'd like, but it's still going up. Also, another point in the income is interest income. We're getting really good interest off of the meter investment that we have. And at this point in December of 23, we only had 500,000. And this for 24, December of 24, we had a total of 800,000. So it's earning pretty good, especially with the interest rates falling again. We're still we're locked in with good rates. So depending on which investment we're looking at, but we try to diversify it as far as we have some that are in 1 to 2 year locked. We have some that are in a 3 to 4, even 5 year lock. So, and as the smaller ones are coming due, we're trying to lock them out longer so that they have about as good a rate as we can for that longer period because we feel that the interest rates are still going to continue to fall for a little while before they start going back up.
To give a kind of a sense of that is typically the investment practices are to have, we can only go out by state law out to 5 years with investment. So typically they have a ladder approach where they have, yeah, 1 to 2, or 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, so on. So ours, because we have to balance it also with our needs for cash flow and anticipated needs. So we feel like it's adequate right now. We're gonna have to watch that really carefully just to make sure that we have a good amount. But we're in good communication with Meter Investments. And we have provided that instruction to load up a little bit more on the longer term ones to put it um, in quotes there, lock it in. It's not really locked in, but lock it in at that rate. If need be, we can sell those instruments. There is sometimes there's a loss to that, and oftentimes the way that these have performed, that there wouldn't be much of a loss if we needed to make it liquid. We're still among probably their best performing governmental agency right now. So for the whole portfolio, they're out of country. Just about our timing, it was fortunate.
Yes, very fortunate. And that was all I really wanted to point out in the income section between the two fiscal years. Program expenses, I just wanted to hit on was 38,000 in 2023, and it was almost half, a little under half for this year compared to that amount. So it was 14,000 for this fiscal year. So we have reduced some spending in some areas. Equipment rental is another way that we have reduced our spending because we didn't have the ice rink this year. We did in 2023, so that's why that equipment rental is a little higher. And then overall expenses, though, like I said, we are reducing some of our expense spending, but in other areas we did kind of increase. So comparatively between the 2 years, it's about the same amount of spending and expenses. It so it is what it is. But as far as our net income, if you look between the 2 years of the net income, the 23, our net income was negative 1 million, and this time it is only negative 400,000. So even though our expenses are about the same, our income is kind of offsetting it. So we are doing pretty good for this year compared to last fiscal year.
I greatly appreciate you bringing this and sharing this because it's kind of comforting to see we're ending the fiscal half year at 212% versus last year it was 4,244%.
Yeah.
I mean, this looks it's enlightening to see the differences because I can't remember where we were last year, and you look at the budget compared to the other budget, which budgets are just they're fluid. So I appreciate this very much. And it was interesting the differences of the income and expenses. You picked out all the things that I was going to ask about. So thank you.
Doesn't this reflect our solar panels? We didn't have them in 23, 24, and we did in 24, 25?
We could provide a deeper dive on that.
And our electric.
This is the first, I think the calendar year was the first year with it last year. And so I think it was partial year in 23. But, we also have other facilities and expenses too. But if you're curious, I'm sure we can dive in with that.
Well, haven't the rates gone up too, though?
Yeah, they have. And so that's why I think it's not just kilowatts, it's also the rate.
Did a big rate hike.
I don't
And
remember.
it took away all the solar we're producing?
So I don't remember exactly how much we're spending on PG&E, but we are still paying a PG&E bill for the TARC area. It's not the 20,000 that it was with Ice Rink, but we do still have a couple thousand, I want to say roughly $2,000 in the wintertime because we're using gas. Yeah. Because of the gas for the heater and everything like that, we do use that.
Director Anderson, maybe on our next district report, we can provide a little update on what that,
Mhm.
those kilowatts are. So that,
That
I
sounds
think that'd be
good.
good for all of us to see.
I have some quibbles which might be better next week's finance committee meeting, but I did want to bring to everyone's attention the decrease in impact fees that have been received. And I don't know if this is the time to ask about the state of the Nexus study.
Um,
I can wait then.
yeah,
Very well.
let's do that.
Was there any other questions?
For our illustrious accountant, Catherine? Thank you very much,
Thank
Catherine.
you.
We appreciate what you do tremendously. Okay, I guess I should have opened that up to the public. Did anybody want to speak in the audience to item 6.1 as we just discussed? Apparently not. Okay, so we'll move on to 6.2, waiver of rental fees for long-standing board member. Dan, you want to take the lead on that, please?
Well, I'll start. I think Sarah can provide some additional information too, but I think we mentioned at last meeting about that passing of Mr. Grosso. And just, I thought it was worthwhile to mention some of the contributions that he did for the district on setting us up with an endowment, some other things. We wanted to have that fee waived on behalf of the district. The timing was unfortunate for us to bring that up in a timely fashion, but we have the request here tonight. Sarah, I don't know if you want to add some more information, but we do have some, the endowment, not only longstanding board member, but had established an endowment, $54,000. There's about 5,500 available for scholarships. And that's kind of on a regular basis that occurs. He also provided not only leadership at the board, but also help manage retirement accounts for district employees and provide a lot of service on people embarking on the next adventure there. So we request that waiver of fees be approved, and be happy to answer any questions folks might have.
So moved. I move that we approve the waiver fees.
I have to open it up to the audience first. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
It's an agenda item. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mary, but does anybody want to speak to this matter from the audience? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board.
I'll second Mary's motion.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote on the motion as seconded?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Absolutely, aye. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Next item is the district report, which we have written copies in our packet, but I'm going to turn it over to the district manager to kick that off and turn it over. District
Yeah,
report.
I think we'll do a little different order tonight, and we will return. By the way, we've been trying to do a focus on particular program, and we'll return to that I think next month. I want to start off with some updates Mark had on kind of pool and maintenance yard and keeping up with storms a bit. So, Mr. Cobb, can you come to the microphone, please?
But I don't need it. There we go. All right. Well, obviously, you can see what's in front of you. I think a big thing there is the pool. Getting that realigned, it significantly reduced the water usage by substantial amount. And that pool is fed mostly by PID. And so that's a big deal. And another big thing on there is I wrote that we, instead of we always had to drain the pool every couple years to paint the rim because of fiberglass on the gutters. It was just gotten old, and the liner was breaking down, and we had to repaint the lines, the lane lines for swimming. Well, when we had it apart, I got with the contractor and I said, "What would you do? Can we got tile so we would never have to paint it again?" And it's a 220,000 gallon pool. So getting rid of 220,000 gallons and then filling it back up 220,000 gallons every couple of years is a lot. Um, so we don't have to do that no more. No more fiberglass. It's a stucco finish. It has a 20-year warranty to it. Well, a 7-year warranty, 20-year lifespan. So that's going to be very significant for all of us. And I think in the long run, it's going to buy us time until we get that wondrous grant for millions of dollars to redo the whole area. So it's going to buy us a few years. And, and I'm looking forward to it because we had the heater redone, the boiler technically, and the pool pump has been rebuilt due to going out. So I'm really looking forward to having 1 year in all my years I've been here where it's just, you just want that pool is a lot. And it's just like you want that 1 year of not having it down because the swim teams on it, the high school, the piranhas. It's really like the youth were saying, it's a big youth thing. It's a pool. When it's 100 degrees out, that pool is a big deal. And it's horrible to have it broken down. You can't do nothing. But I'm really feeling good this year.
It is February, Mark.
I know, but it comes fast in maintenance. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, it's 100 degrees, and summer's here. So that's one of the things I try to stay way ahead of everything. Um, and the next thing was Lower Billy Park. On the pictures, and you can see, oh, that's one thing. Can you go back really quickly? I wanted to say, since I've been here, there was lights that were out, and you could never get access to them because you had to drain the pool and everything. So we took time to redo all the lighting, and so now and you can see how lit up it is. So now when Scott they have their pool parties at night, the theater. It's really neat to be out there at night and see it lit up. It adds a lot to it. The ambiance is pretty neat. That picture, of course, is when I come to work at 5 in the morning, but it's still the same thing at night. Um, and
Suggestion on the pool, Mark, before you go in there, probably sometime in July or August on one of these 107-degree days. I think it would be a good idea to take your staff, cut off a couple hours early and go swimming.
we have actually been milling that around. I called it the Caddyshack party, but that didn't that didn't go over as well as I thought. But no, we are thinking about doing something for the staff to celebrate because we have a pool there, and it is when it's hot out, we have brought that up of trying to do something.
Thanks for that. That's we did have a discussion actually just this week, but now we have board direction.
Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna take that as that. Um, and the next one, really, I'm gonna try to go through this quickly. It's been a very busy last few months, and we did the Lower Billy Playground. Do you have that little climber? Well, that's the new climber. There, the other pictures it's warded. It's probably my fault, but that's the old one. You can see the old. It had like plastic around the rings with a chain, and it broke down, and it was bad. And so I got with Miracle Playgrounds, and we got together, and they said, "Oh, well, they actually have stopped building that one just because of liabilities of it, and they've put in this is their newer model, and it was just a plug and play, went right in, and it's much functional, much better, easier for the kids to play on, and that's a big deal. You can see the little kid right there. This is like the day after. As we were installing it, the parents and everybody was really happy that and it really made a big difference. And we've taken the time of redoing all the benches around the pool, as you can see there, restaining them. We sand them down and redo them. That's the new one. If you go back, you'll see see how it has plastic and chain. No, when you looked at it, it had the rubber around the chain. They called them hot dogs. That's what the manufacturer even called them, because they look like green hot dogs that go over a chain. And what they do is through, just time, they break and get brittle, and the kids would get pinched on them. And so we kept trying to tape them up. It took me nearly, I'm not exaggerating, 18 months to finally get this piece of equipment. That's how long it took from Miracle. But I finally actually had to go through. I requested a different sales rep and got things moving a little quicker. I try to be patient. Um, but so that's a big improvement. More road. We've done the loan bins. I wish I had more pictures of it before, but they didn't have. For whatever reason, it burned. The pictures aren't there, but the old loan bin just had wooden 4x4s and 2x12s. Well, that all burned, but unfortunately, they had never poured a concrete slab to put the dirt on, so it was always getting contaminated because you'd go in and scoop. So every year you're losing a little bit of dirt because you can't go deep because you don't want to mix the loam with the clay that was there. So this year we took a second to step back and make it better. I think it's just anytime since this fire, I think we've always have promoted that, and Dan is to always take a step. Don't just go rush and put it back the way it was. Everything can be improved. That loan bin was built over almost 25 years ago, and it was time and because loam isn't cheap. That dirt we use on the infills, 9 yards is $800. So just you imagine that over years and time and labor, because it used to when I first came to work, first thing I did was look at the loan bin. It wasn't like that. There's Paul. Hey, there he is. Um, but it really, if you'd ever been up there, it looked like had a weed garden. It was just weeds, and then so it wasn't good. So what we did is you pour a slab so the weeds can't come up through it, and around it I put landscape cloth with some base rock. So try to keep it from being contaminated. Needs to be not sterile, but we don't want to get it contaminated with other soils. And my goal has always been, I'm a big baseball player, is every year we try to do a little bit something better at that ballpark. Um, and I'll probably do here in a couple months is show how much work we've done since the fire. There was nothing left after the fire other than outfield fences. All that's been rebuilt, so it's come a long way since that fire. The backstops, all there was the poles. There was no backstops, no score booths, and yeah, no lighting. We've done the lighting. There's been a lot of improvements up there, and we do a little bit more every year. Running a baseball field isn't cheap. The lighting a month, believe me, they're not paying. We are nonprofit because just to light that every month is a few $1,000s. And I guarantee we're not getting that from Little League and softball. And then you add in the water, the labor to maintain the infills, the chalk. It's a lot. So we try to do a little bit every year to make it a little better, a little better, a little better. And I got some plans for this year to make it a little better. Because the goal is, and it always has been the goal, is have it a ballpark that's so nice they want to come up here to have tournaments.
Can you just stop right there
Yep.
momentarily, Mark or Dan? One of you probably knows, are we scheduled this calendar year for PG&E or whoever it is that's going to disrupt Moore Road and then
Oh, yeah.
resurface?
Mark
Can I-
gave you an update as of today. It
Yes,
was going to be on next month's
I
meeting.
met with PG&E today and their contractor that's going to pave it. And we walked through it from end to end. They're doing the whole road and they're hoping to start, it should be started getting paved in early March.
Really, despite the weather?
Well, it's a weather contingent, but if
Right.
they have that window of opportunity in
Right.
March, that's where they're going to start looking for that window. That's going to be, if you've ever driven down Moore Road,
Many times.
I
it's,
did it this morning. It was,
yeah. So we walked through it, and there was a couple little things that we worked out.
We're trying to work out the keeping the intent of the direction from the boards, which
Mhm.
was full width of the road. And so there's been some field negotiations to whittle that down, but we're holding firm on
Yeah.
on that.
PG&E.
And
wanted-
we can't, we won't discuss it
Yes.
too much, but we're working it out with them. But it was, we're being diligent on that
Yeah.
direction.
No, we're not giving in. Yes, it is going to be, but it's going to get paved. That is so huge. Yeah. I mean, there's very rarely, well, there's always, speaking of that, and somehow from somewhere, but just for our rigs. Oh my gosh, the wear and tear, that's probably the most, yeah. So, and it takes up a lot just to maintain it the best we could. Um, with that being said, in the last little part there, I'll be trying to quick. You know that I wanted to because I always try to bring the positive side. No one ever sees the dark side of this of maintenance. This here, that's one calendar year of police reports from vandalism at our parks. That right there. That's every one of them. This is just what's reported. You don't know how many times we just do things and just clean it up. You know, they break a bottle and splash it and do stuff. And like I wrote in, as I've mentioned in this, it's a we're not a huge metropolitan. These are kids that are in our community that we're trying to give them parks. We're trying to do like we just had elements here. We're trying our best to try to do things for them. And I understand, but it's no reason. It's just and like I wrote on here, it'd be just like you going every week and painting your house. Every week you going out and getting your lawn fixed up, and every week it goes out and gets vandalized. To stay positive takes a lot. So this is what all of our maintenance does. I mean, every week we all go through it, but I just wanted to bring that to light. That you know, I think it's easy to turn a blind eye, but it is here in paradise. I mean, that's right there. That's reality. That's not make up stuff. This is certified police reports coming out looking at them. 130. Okay, and there's only 52 weeks in a year. So there's easy math. But one thing I want to close on real quick, and I'm glad that Paul's here, at least one member of our staff, is all these storms that have been hitting us and everything. We are so lucky to finally get to a point where I'm lucky because they make my life a lot easier, is to have a seasoned staff. And how much that means when you have parks that everyone kind of knows when the big storms come, they've been here for years enough to where they know what the roles are, where what parks get hit the most, where they're at, and you don't have to explain. Everyone knows, okay, this is the crew that's going to do this. This is the crew that's going to do this. We know this part over here gets hit the most. This is where the drainage is going to be. And it's not just during a storm, but it's prepping for the storm. That's where a lot of it comes from, is everyone knows where the drainage is, where it's going to build up, excuse me, and what to expect. And if you know what's going to come and you can be prepared for it, you're being more proactive than reactive, and they stay ahead of it. And we didn't have to close one park. We immediately, as soon as the suns came up, we didn't lose anything. There was some limbs, of course, and stuff like that. But I mean, as far as anything having to be shut down or anything, even like the parking lots, within as soon as the next day the sun's up, parking lots are blowing off because we know we got. And that's what's nice is everyone's been around enough that you don't have to be micromanaging. Everyone just they knows what their roles are. They knows what needs to get done, and the district is very lucky to have that. Um, you know, and Paul he runs the tree crew. Going around and taking care of limbs and all the heavy lifting. And then we got crews that go out and just will focus on blowing, and the other crews will focus on this, and everyone has a role, and everyone knows what their role is. And we weathered through these storms. I mean, gosh, it was like the next day, as soon as the sun was out, you couldn't hardly tell we got hit at most parks. So I commend our staff on that, and we're lucky to have them like that. And it's a big deal for me to have seasoned staff because when you're training everybody all the time, it's really hard because versus just having a crew and they just know what to do. They just grab their equipment, they get in their vehicle, and they go do what you got to do, and you don't have to sit there and worry about, oh, are they going to take care of that? Oh, are they going to do that? I can go about my end of what I got to do, and I don't have to worry about it. And that's a big deal for any supervisor. Is to know you can rely on your staff to do their job.
Mark and Paul, if you guys can convey this the crew, we've had some pretty significant storms, high wind, heavy rainfall, saturated soils. And yet when I go back through the parks and do an inspection, they're almost always in motion, clean, hard to find something. I did find something a few weeks ago on a Saturday, like the white glove, right? Like, aha, I found something which was a hazard tree over one of the parking lots, but found out that it had dropped that morning. So it was just something that was crew couldn't pick it up because had just happened. And so the response was good on that because it closed off the area and it was taken care of, I think, the next morning. But yeah, crew's been very diligent, and some things are going to show up that we don't know about, but they've been keeping a diligent eye out on things. So we thank you for that.
Hi.
Hey.
Is there something that could be put in the activities guide, or maybe every once in a while posted on a PRPD Facebook page about caring for our parks? I mean, not going to as much detail as this, but just some kind of reminders in the activity guide. And I don't know who looks at it. If it's just parents, it's probably not teenage kids, or whoever is doing this vandalism, they probably don't look at things like that. But is there something we could just pop in every now and again that protect our parks or take care of our parks, or I don't
Oh,
know,
I'm sure
something.
between Dan and Scott, we could come up with language that would
Yeah,
work.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think another thing that's been really helpful, I mean, in comparison to other local parks, that's nothing, and so we're very lucky as a district. I think our volunteer program and having people engaged in the parks actually builds that stewardship and people looking out for things like that. But I think there's some probably ideas we come up with on messaging and getting out there. Sometimes you can go through some cycles about highlighting too much about vandalism, and it actually pushes it the other way.
Right, right.
So, I think there is sort of one of the best deterrents that we have is kind of zero time tolerance on if there's graffiti out there, it doesn't stay there long. So whatever, and sometimes that takes a couple of cycles for that graffiti to appear, and we paint over it or we clean it up. They try it again, and then they just give up. And so I think that's one of the best deterrents we can have. But we could think about some messaging on
Yeah,
that.
just something.
And I wanted to say this is probably a good promotion for the Element program, because the more the kids are involved doing that, the less they're probably going to be doing this. So, and I think that does kind of all mesh together, and I kind of understand and emphasize. Yeah, I think just having the more things for teenagers to do, it really is, and I think that is always something. There's always like the little kids, like we have Tiny Tots, and then you have more of the seniors, and it is important that age gap, which is where the Elements program comes in. I think that is a good thing for us to be part of, and I think this is like a perfect example of it, of one of the reasons why we need to have things like that. Absolutely. So you owe me a soda, Scott. But I'm seriously, on a serious note, I think things like that, the Elements program does promote that, and then intertwining in that they can do for, maybe they can do have something with, that would probably be the perfect opportunity. Those kids are all in high school and stuff like that, of taking care of our parks. It's their parks. I think a lot of times people think governments, they don't understand that it's for them. We work for them, and we try to do it for them. And, because we all, I always love it when they say, "Why pay your taxes?" I say, in a way, I'm paying in taxes, so I'm actually putting part of my own wages. I'm paying myself in taxes. I paid $9,000 last year. Yeah, so it's all of ours. We take care of all of our stuff. It's for all of us to enjoy.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
Before you go, if I may.
Yes.
The last time I was over at Moore Road, checking the drainage, I did see those concrete pads, didn't understand what they're for. So thank you for clarifying that. And if one of the two of you could clarify, is the expectation that Moore Road will be paved all the way up to the asphalt path that connects to the Yellowstone Kelly, or just up to Warren?
It's our property.
Yeah, it's just, we don't have any control of the rest of it. So
It's from Forestry all the way to right at the end of our road where our property line goes to. It's basically just a little bit, it's almost to Warren. It is basically right where it turns dirt.
yeah,
Thank you.
Yes.
But maybe we can have CAL FIRE insist on the same deal for at least to go to Forest Service Road.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. Fantastic. We support it. Outside of our purview.
Correct. That's why I brought in CAL FIRE. They would probably want the same thing.
Just a couple of other things to mention. You'll see there's quite a list, even though it's kind of the rainy season here on the volunteer program. We've had actually really good level of efforts, especially with the neighbor to neighbor program. One thing that's going to be fun to watch is our pollinator garden. It's been planted. It's going to start filling in as those small plants take off. But we're also developing with our climate action fellow. Oh yeah, there's a little sign, but also a map and some QR codes to provide more information. So that's good. Look for that in the next few months. Scott, why don't you do a lean update on recreation? And as Scott's moving up, I'm going to steal some thunder. We have a great looking activity guide almost ready for publication. So I'll take that off Scott's list there. And I know that he also mentioned in the report and to me as well that that he's met with Kelly Munson, spoke tonight, and Ann Stevens, and they're going to have information they're going to provide to me that we haven't had a chance to debrief, but that'll be some follow up on it. Scott, you want to run through recreation stuff?
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, the recreation is this time of year is lean. Obviously, the weather is prohibitive for a lot of different things. Sonny, can you scroll to some of the really neat thing we've got going on in rec right now? It's back up, Sonny. Is the PRPD flag football and the Ridge Bowl. The Ridge Bowl is something that's been around for. There you go. The Ridge Bowl has been around for a long time, and it's something that we were glad to bring back. As it came back, that's a very, very small number of the participants that were actually there. You can see in the flag football ballers on the image figure 10, there's a bunch of parents up in there. It was a massive turnout. It was almost overwhelming. Willie Davidson, he has his finger on the pulse of what the community needs. And we expected 20 to 30 participants to show up, and there were 85 people at the Ridge Bowl participants. So that was pretty neat to see that what our hunch was and that our R&D is aimed at is that these are kind of traditional sporting activities, and that they're coming back and that they're being supported to the tune that events like this pay for themselves, which is a really, really big deal when it comes to cost offsetting goals for traditional programming, specifically traditional sports. Same with the next point B right here, the youth basketball skills. I have stood at this podium for years saying that the key to engaging youth is partnering with the schools, and it's happening. It's happening sometimes faster than I care for, but Jeff is on top of it. He's pushing things forward, and things are looking up. So look for more of that, for more partnerships with the school. Very specifically, we're working on a couple things that I'll hold back for this year, or for this report, but know that we're looking at that really shiny new pool and the location in being so close to the junior high school. We're working with the schools. We have some neat things to report coming up soon. The Ridge Hiking Association, it's something that Director Belfay and I always kind of poke at each other. This time of year, the snowshoe adventure is very, very popular. And the same day that the Ridge Hiking Association went out for their snowshoe adventure, the Elements crew went with me up to Lassen. So we have a host of this fantastic gear in snowshoes, where the Ridge Hiking Association went one direction to Jonesville. We went all the way north. The strong attendance as well there. I don't think the picture's up there, but it'll be up there for you next month. All things outdoor education for all, healing trauma through nature. We had a bunch of meetings earlier this quarter with, again, partnerships with the schools. This is essentially a BCOE program that is now making its way up here onto the Ridge through the physical education department at Paradise High School. So we've gotten in contact with Allie, their PE teacher, which their goal is to start to take their PE students out into nature during the week for very small, I'll call them vignette field trips, 2 hours and back. So that's coming up as well, in conjunction with the 16 trips that we've got planned. After that, you heard from Elements. I don't think I need to jump through these hoops right here. Their guides are great. Their experiences are fantastic. They did get to go to the train park. I was a little jealous there. Word is that there's more climbing opportunities coming into the area, which again, with the what's the REI? REI is going in at the bottom of the hill, which is fantastic news for anyone in outdoor recreation in our area. So we're looking forward to that showing up at Paradise Lake. You can buy kayaks at REI, use them for a couple of days, and then return them. So we'll see how that goes. They have this fantastic return policy that I wouldn't say I abuse it, but I definitely use it as often as possible. And then the last piece here is the activity guide has been it's a joy to produce this one this year. It's got a cover designed by a 9-year-old community member, and it's like this person had I'll use it again. She had her finger on the pulse of what this cover needed to look like. And when you see it, you're going to go, she's got it. The activity guide is big this year. It's robust because we're providing so many programs, and we're trying to give these. We're trying to get more people to the parks because we invest so much in the parks and these open spaces. We feel like the programming components of that could definitely take another look at that. So you're going to see a lot of that in the activity guide, and then you're going to see a lot of pop-up programming this next year. Meet Connor at the park at 3:00 today. Not anything that's been, well, again, pop-up stuff. You know, Connor finishes with his administrative work for the day, heads over to the park, and then leads birding for a couple of hours in the afternoon. Lots more pop-up programming that's going to increase our Facebook presence and our, let's call it, our connection with the youngest of our community members. So more coming with some potential partnerships with the Paradise Library. And one thing that's not in the rec report this go around is the Networking Neighborhoods program. There's currently, as we're here through the first quarter, we're helping community partners run, I think it ends up being about 40 different events per quarter. So there's so many events going on that we can't list them all inside of here. There will be a special presentation on networking neighborhoods and all the things we got planned for the summertime as the weather gets better. But that's another thing that now it's just up and humming along so well that we almost, we don't have a whole lot of staff working on it. It's generally Kristen and Christy and Sophia. They've just got it up and pumping to the point where, it's almost like oxygen is just happening with that ending at the end of this fiscal year, or excuse me, end of this calendar year. And I'd love to answer questions.
Thank you, Todd.
Sign me up for I'll sign myself up for the Sutter Buttes. That's on my bucket list.
It's that will be a very well attended one. So let us know how it goes. That'll be cool. So, Dan, you want me to point out anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay,
just quick updates on some project stuff. This is an outdated list already, but we on the aquatic center, we had to work on our timing for getting some of the groundwork kind of aligned and the septic stuff. That looks like it's coming together, and so we'll be approving or authorizing the contract to move forward with that here shortly. I think we got the fees into the town for grading today. Yep, today. So that's exciting. We'll keep you posted on that. Once we get that kind of groundwork done, I think the focus on when it gets to be installed will come way into focus. So I think in the next month or two, we'll have a clear idea when that building is likely to be completed. PRPD shop, we are, and this is incorrect here, it says recommend releasing the RFP. We're actually going to go to our short list and develop a scope of work and cost and schedule. And that amendment will come to the board for approval. So we're looking at that. Hopefully that's March, might be a little bit delayed, but we're hoping to move that forward. We had a really good tour with some of the maintenance staff looking at our properties and got some good ideas on what I think we need at that shop. So that's exciting news. Trails work, we're working on that. Weather's obviously slowed that down. We're going to come up with a schedule later on this spring, bring that back here and share with you what that looks like. We're still waiting for approval from the federal agencies on a couple of items. So we have had to tap the brakes on that a bit. Lake Ridge, we'll come back with a more extensive schedule and a timeline probably next meeting. So we're going to want to really kind of lay out some of the critical steps that are coming up. And we'll have a lot more to say. Again, March is going to be a busy meeting. We may have to spread out some of this on a special
So
meeting.
not to uh, burst the bubble on the calendar plans there, but groundbreaking this year?
Let me get back to you.
Okay.
So I mean, I can say something right now, but I'd rather have the detailed schedule that's been vetted out with our contractors. So I know that there's a lot of urgency. We've conveyed that quite clearly to our contractors now, and hopefully that has increased some urgency, that they feel the urgency we do on moving forward. So
Dan, recall that if necessary, this board's amenable to do a special meeting if you need it.
Sure.
As we
Yeah,
make
I
a
think it's just
proceed.
timing when stuff is ready.
Right.
So, I
Okay.
mean, there is constraints that are outside the organization, but I think that item, yeah, the special meeting would be great to kind of loosen up some of the other items, not necessarily on that one. So Sarah might actually talk to you about a special meeting for later on in this month, because there's a few items that we know that are going to take some time for us to discuss, and don't want to load up our March meeting too much, or April, far as that goes. Oh, just a couple of other updates here on some items there. One thing I was going to mention that's pretty important is annually we have our staff negotiations that kick off. So we've identified the following representatives. So Sophia and Paul, who's here tonight. Paul, wave to the people out there, that your public. And then Sarah are going to be our representatives, and have had a good kickoff meeting with them on that. I know impact fees came up earlier, and I think that's something that we have shared with board members, that we're looking at kind of getting a revision on that recommendation in 2025 here. Just before the holiday, we had some information exchange with the contractor, SCI. What is it? SGI? SCI. SCICG, actually. SCICG is the company. So with Blair Oss. So
What's SCI?
it's just a consultant that's doing this. They actually did our last impact fee nexus study. So there's quite a bit of information. Some of it is a little bit challenging because previously levels of service, it's difficult to count some levels of service on things that are being reconstructed. So for example, if you're saying strictly what is here today, and you go, the aquatic rec center is not here today, but should that be counted as part of the level of service and that type of thing? So there have been some discussions on that. We're still keenly watching, and I don't think it's been brought back, but the impact nexus fee for Feather River Recreation and Park District, they had a rough rollout on. I haven't heard that it's been brought back. They've had some leadership changes, and so some solidification of that. So I think it probably moves forward, but that's something we're kind of eyeballing, making sure that we're following that and learning from it.
So, excuse me, Dan, but related to that subject, I noticed in our check register, we just made a major payment to that consulting firm. Was that final payment for?
Oh, no, no, not
Okay.
final payment. It's a work in progress. We haven't even seen the draft document. So that's coming up. And that'll be run through the finance committee
Right,
when it's
right.
ready.
Right, okay.
But I think there's a lot of uncertainties and questions. And so I think it was, well, I could look at the date here. Yeah, I think it was just before the holidays that we met with them to give them some additional information. So I think they're still working on that additional information collection. There's other things scattered in the report there, but I certainly will take any questions on anything that board members may wonder about.
Regarding trail rights of way, a meeting with the county is scheduled early next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was written 2024, so we're talking about 2025.
Okay.
So that's the perspective on that.
Okay.
And just so folks know, the idea that was recommended to us from the county that I think is a good idea is we're bundling our right-of-way requests. So we have a series of them related to construction at Lake Ridge, and then also the trails. And so there's some places to, we're going to have one permit. So it saves us money on fees. It makes it a simpler process for the county to, if there's an amendment or some changes to it, they can pull the PRPD encroachment 2025 file rather than a series of different fees. So that's something we're working on with Nick Trover on to bring that to the county.
Do any other, yes, Mary, go ahead.
On item under finance, the updates for the auditors. So the fiscal year 2024 means 23 to 24. That's when's completed, but the year before still is pending.
Catherine can address that.
So they're actually working on 2022, 23. We are
Okay.
still way behind on our audits. I actually just today submitted everything that I have gathered for them, and it was a lot, but I submitted it today to them. So hopefully I'll check in with them next week and see how they're doing with all that information and see if I can get an update on when I will be receiving a draft so that I can do what I need to do in order to finish it. Because I need to do a what they call an MDA, which is management discussion analysis
Oh,
or something like that. But in order to have that in the final audit, I need their rough draft to do that. So
Okay. But
Yeah.
everything for 23, 24 is completed? Is that what?
No, that's the
Well,
next one.
what's the transaction?
So
Oh,
that is the state controller's office. Every year we have to turn in the FTR, financial transaction report,
mhm.
and for that current calendar year, or
Okay.
the last fiscal year, sorry.
Okay.
And so that's that report, and they did get that completed, but it's just a transaction report. It's not an audit.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, and I wanted to mention, I forgot to say this earlier, but if you look at the current budget versus actual, the one for January, you'll see that there is tax revenue in there. It's over 700,000. So we did get a good chunk for January. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
Does that conclude our board discussion on the monthly report? Okay, so we're going to move on. We're at that point in time where we do board comments, and I'm just going to start at to my immediate left. Director Roderick, do you have anything that you want to share for the?
I do have one thing. I've got to save the date. On March 8th, Paradise Animal Shelter Helpers in association with the Paradise Pines Property Owners Association are going to hold a Marty Paws, where it's a fundraiser for their Rainbow Bridge and our Sarah Fund, which matches elderly people with elderly animals. Again, it's going to be March 8th at the PPOA Rec Center from 11 to 4. There's going to be low-cost animal chipping, low-cost animal vaccinations, food trucks, raffles, fun, prizes. Uh, Hopefully the weather will cooperate. It could be either 72 degrees or 2 feet of snow. So if your March 8th is open, come on by. And from 11 to 4.
At the,
Everybody on the ridge is welcome.
at the animal shelter, you say?
No, at the PPOA Rec Center.
Oh, PPOA. Okay, got it. Do you have anything else to report since our last board meeting? Anything that you've been assigned to liaison wise or?
I checked the board agenda. There was nothing pertaining to Parks and Recs there, and nothing on the lake.
Director Belafé, what do you have to share tonight?
I don't have any liaison reports right this second. I did attend the chamber board meeting, and the only not earth-shattering thing, but the only thing that I took away from that was major was there's going to be a Butte County fire safe area that they are targeting that is south of Bennett, below South Libby, that goes from Clark to Pence. So the bottom part of Paradise, they're going to target that area to focus on for whatever their projects are that they're going to do. And I said, great, that's by me, protect that. Just the grant updates. If we could have one of those where we are, and we had one about 6 or 7 months ago. If we could just have another one to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Director Stonebreaker, what do you have to offer tonight?
I'll second Mary's request for an update on some of these grants. I'd certainly like to know what portion of what we're spending is expected to be reimbursed. So I played hooky from several meetings in January to get one healthy shade tree pardoned off of PG&E's death row. I still have thousands of trees in the focus tree inspection program up there. And we got an update from PG&E at the Upper Ridge Community Council meeting on the 30th. Talking about that and their plans to underground along Humbug Road, along the canyon's edge, and also to harden in place a little bit more up around DeSabla area. On January 28th, I did attend the supervisors meeting. I was a bit tardy, but I got to speak both on the legislative platform and convince them to add higher education to the platform. That was approved today, or yesterday, and also got them to expedite the sediment removal at 5 Mile to try to go forward with the environmental right away, even before securing all the funding that they might end up needing. Given the impacts of the park fire and the decades of sedimentation in that basin, there's an increased risk of a significant high water event like they had in 1997 that could cause significant damage. So that's good to see that the county is moving forward with that. I spoke to the Water Commission on February 5th. And after Kevin Phillips from Paradise Irrigation gave an update on how they're doing with their recovery, they expect to have all of their sewer service laterals in place by the end of August. And Kevin was talking about the surplus that they have and possibly looking at customers in the valley to take some of that surplus using water that technically belongs to PID, but sending it down Butte Creek to the farmers. And I was pointing out to the commission that there is infrastructure to send that to customers on the ridge as well, that the uncertain state of PG&E's DeSablo Centerville project means that many people who have had water coming through the Butte Canal, which is no longer in operation, need another source to get that water into DeSablo and then through the Butte Creek adjudicated water to those contracted users on Nimshi Ridge. I had a good meeting with constituents last weekend. One of them focused on Lake Ridge Park and one of them was more broad. I would say that if we're going to have a special meeting, you're probably going to get literally hours of citizen public comment regarding the time frame for Lake Ridge and amenities that may or may not be included. And we had a good meeting with the architects of the Lake Ridge Apartments on Monday, that they were actually receptive to feedback regarding some of their planting palettes, as they call them, and about creating direct access from the residential community along the gravel road directly into the park. So some of the drawings that we have seen regarding Lake Ridge Park would prevent that direct access. Also, the owners of the property do not expect to be using the entirety of the project or property for their project, and they might be willing to contribute some of that additional unnecessary, unneeded land to the district. So that might also influence like the quote future planning area there. And so our residents on the Upper Ridge have ideas about how that additional property might be used. And then yesterday I went to zoomed in to a couple of PID meetings. First, their community relations meeting, seeing how active they are on Facebook and on other media in spreading the message, for example, regarding the shift to monthly billing, and also the flushing of the lines, and also that Magalia Reservoir was spilling over the spillway for the first time in 11 years. At one of these meetings, Kevin Phillips also mentioned that even though they have a lot of money from the BRIC grant for the rebuild or repair of Magalia Dam, the plan is to sort of buttress it rather than digging into the earthen dam that has never fully cured since 1916. But of course, costs are continuing to overrun, so they're seeking additional funding for that. And they do intend to put in a new spillway on the opposite side, so the water that, like, for example, when it spilled this past week, it's basically running directly at the treatment plant. They much rather have it run down the natural creek bed. And then also, last night, I attended the POA meeting where our trails chief has taken a new job in Mendocino. So we're looking to rehabilitate the trails and get new volunteers. So if anybody in this room owns property in the POA and doesn't already have too much on their plate, we'd be very happy to have some, a little bit of muscle help. And in that cause, the board also approved the purchase of a lightly used Polaris Ranger that will be able to go get volunteers down onto the trails and do a lot of the work on its own. So one person operating the machine can do work that used to require an entire crew. So that's quite a lot to report, much of it related to the district's recreation mission. Thank you.
Director Anderson.
We had a volunteer day at Crane Park. We placed and made over 200 seed balls and planted, it was close to 250 daffodils.
What date was that?
Saturday.
Last Saturday?
This
Okay.
Saturday, yeah. last
So the
Saturday.
weather was permissible and it
Oh
went
yeah, it
well.
was great.
Good.
If a cloud went in, got in front of the sun, you got cold. But once the sun came back out, it was a nice day.
Director Anderson, do we have a Doom the Broom event scheduled for Crane Park in the not too distant
I'm
future?
sure we do.
Okay. All right.
We usually have like a couple a year.
All right. Okay. I guess it's my turn. I'll try to be brief as best I can. But since our last board meeting, myself and Director Bellafay attended a Town of Paradise and PRPD Liaison Committee meeting, which occurred on the 14th of January. Essentially, our staff did a great job. Dan, commend you on that, giving agency updates to our counterparts with the town, and the town staff did the same thing, apprising us of what's going on with some of the town activities. One of the key actions that was discussed during that committee was what's referred to as the Berry Creek Park lease. If you're not familiar with that, I didn't know it was called Berry Creek Park, but the property that the town of Paradise picked up many years ago along Berry Creek Drive next to the Eagleson Field, Little League ball fields on Bushman Road. That's what we're pursuing jointly with the town of Paradise and the Little League property. And I guess that's really coming along according to what we heard at the committee level. And my impression is that Dan will soon be bringing something to this full board, I believe. Is that correct, Dan?
That's correct. We need to work out some details with Paradise Little League.
Okay. Also, on the 15th of January, the very next day, I had a Zoom meeting on the state board I serve on for California Association of Recreation and Park Districts. Primarily, the key things we discussed during that meeting was the state budget and our 2025 conference, which will be in San Diego. We also briefly discussed some new legislation that's already been introduced by the new makeup of the state legislature, and there's oh my God, there's just gobs of bills that our legislative committee is going to have to track and bring to our full board within the next few months. And I know that we'll be probably setting several of us representing PRPD, not, excuse me, Park and Recreation districts throughout the state of California. We'll probably be sending contingent, some of us down there during the middle of March to interact with some of the members of the legislature on some of these key bills. On also that same day, January 15th, I attended and presided over my annual Butte County Redevelopment Agency Oversight Board meeting, which we usually meet just once a year. We appointed a chair and vice chair for this calendar year, and then we entertained and heard and acted on fiscal year budgets and what's called the ROPS programs for the dissolved redevelopment agencies for the city of Chico, Gridley, and Town of Paradise. On January 25th, myself and Director Roderick attended the Patch All Boards Summit, which occurred at the Lutheran Church next door. That was a very worthwhile endeavor. It wasn't heavily attended, but there was a lot of dialogue and exchange that took place, I believe, Steve. And it sounds like Patch is going to, based on the study that we heard about, a presentation we had last board meeting, their main focus now is not a hub necessarily, but just a geographic area concentrated for cultural facilities, cultural events, arts facilities, theater, and that type of thing. So stay tuned. Last but not least, on February the 6th, which was last Thursday, I had my monthly Butte LAFCO meeting. And during the course of that meeting, it was a very light agenda. We had one public hearing on an annexation of land to be served in the Lake Oroville Area Public Utility District, which is, and then in addition to that, we appointed a fiscal year 25-26 budget committee, which I'll be serving on. So that's pretty much it. That concludes our board comments, so I think we can declare the meeting adjourned. So thank you, everyone, for your attendance tonight. Stay safe, stay warm.